Hi guys, it's Paul from Itris, and welcome to episode 6 of The Corner. On today's episode, we're going to be talking to the newest member of our team, Amy Fishenden. Amy's worked in customer service for over 10 years in a variety of sectors, including cloud computing, networking, and manufacturing. So we're going to be quizzing Amy on her insight into customer success. So Amy, welcome to The Corner.
Thank you.
And welcome to Itris. Obviously, you've been with us coming up 9 months now. How have you found it?
Good, yeah, really good. Everyone's been really welcoming. I've sort of spent quite a lot of time in the first sort of couple of months getting to know my way around the software, seeing what the customers will be using so that I've got a frame of reference then when I'm talking to them.
Always helps.
Always useful, yeah. So a lot to learn, but everyone's been really helpful. I've spent some time over with the support team, and obviously I sit, well, not obviously, but I sit in the same office as sales and marketing anyway, so I get to see a lot of that side of it day to day, which I think has been really valuable, just to sort of see across the business what everyone's doing and how the customer's journey would go.
Good. And how have you learned sort of the software that we sell, Itris?
So I've gone through quite similar training to a customer would actually. In some respects, I've had a sort of a walkthrough experience with training and some sort of questions. So like bit like a Q&A session.
Mm-hmm.
I've done that with Nancy from our training team, and really just practical use as well. You know, using it day to day. I've been recording all my outgoing calls using the system as well.
So we obviously use Itris for our internal use as well as sending it to customers,
Yeah.
which is a good testament of our software, by the way. So I've heard that you've actually completed the knowledge base. Is that true?
I mean, I have completed the knowledge base. There is a lot to unpack there, but I have been through it, and as our customers will find, I go back to it regularly. If there's something that I can't quite remember, I can just go and search for what I want. It's a really useful tool.
It helps me as your line manager because you've kind of got that there that you can query as well.
Exactly.
So, you haven't necessarily got to put your hand up and ask, how do I do this?
Although I will.
Which is good. No, please do if you need it. So we've got obviously a few questions here that we're going to run through that we've formulated. And you haven't had view of these, so sorry.
No pressure.
No pressure. So obviously today's session we want to tell the audience a little bit about sort of customer success. There's been a lot of talk in the industry recently about bad customer experience, bad support levels, and quite often companies come to us because they're looking for a new system and they want to know how we sort of service our customers, how we look after them, what we sort of offer. So I want to talk to you a little bit about your experience, sort of where you've been, and then we'll sort of delve into sort of our offerings and that kind of stuff to let them know how we do it different, better.
The right way.
Yeah, the right way. There is only one way. Good stuff. So Amy, you've got over 10 years experience in customer service now. What does customer service mean to you?
For me, customer service can make or break a company. If you are consistently giving out good customer service, that will only ever be a positive for not only your customers but your staff internally as well. Everything really pins around customer service. It's all well and good selling somebody a product, but if you're not then looking after that customer, they're not going to stay with you for that longer journey that we all would like them to have with us. And on the similar note to that, if you're offering that good customer service, then when they ring in and speak to your colleagues, that customer is going to expect a certain level of customer service, and if that's coming back their way, brilliant. But on the flip side to that, if you're giving them bad customer service, they're going to ring in already with a sour taste in their mouth, and your colleague's going to have a horrible day because they've got somebody already grumpy on the phone. Yeah, sure. And
that's a difficult thing to do, isn't it? Because it depends on the tone in which the person's talking to you. We were saying is sort of if you maintain that sort of same level throughout, then only good things will come.
Yeah.
How could that affect sort of internally, the level if they're having a bad customer experience, how could that affect the business or people that work for that business?
Sure. I think it will have a knock-on effect, undoubtedly. If you've got a customer calling in and they've explained as well as they can what their issue is, so they're calling in for some support, and they feel like they've not been listened to, they're going to, you know, give not a very nice experience to you as an employee. You come off the phone then, you're in a bad mood, your colleague asks you something and you think, I haven't got time for that. And all of a sudden, everyone in the office is kind of getting those bad vibes, if you like. And it becomes a not very nice working environment. And, you know, in the long term, that's going to cause issues, isn't it? You know, you want people to be happy in their workplace.
Yeah, sure. And I think one of my worst fears is bad reviews. You know, we're quite lucky. We get a lot of very positive, very, very good reviews. We get the odd sour grape here and there, but it doesn't. I've seen the direct impact that can have on staff when we receive good reviews.
Yes.
And then again, like you said, on the flip side, if you receive a bad review, actually, it's hard not to take that personally, isn't it?
Of course, yeah.
You know, and especially if you've been delivering good customer service and you still get a bad review. Obviously, what we do internally with that, just for your guide, is, you know, we will always take those in isolation and try and talk to the customer, see where we went wrong, see how we can improve. And I think over the years, obviously we've been going nearly 25 years this year, we've learned a lot, you know, to do with customer service. And I think, you know, a lot of our sales, account managers, that kind of thing, they've been trained internally. I think one of the benefits of bringing yourself on board was your experience with other customers. And obviously you stood head and shoulders above, you know, other people we interviewed, mainly down to your care and your passion, you know, your genuine. But it was genuine, you know. A lot of people say, "Oh yeah, I'll give good customer service and here's some experiences." You know, I think with you in interview, it was deep. Your passion for
I do pride myself on it. Yeah.
And that showed, and that's important to us actually, because it's important that we're employing the right staff to give that level of customer service, which generally can fall outside of technical support or training or services we're delivering. You know, to have a customer success manager like you that is checking in with customers all the time.
Yes.
You know, that's sort of an added value.
Absolutely.
So
I hope so.
Thank you for coming on board.
You're welcome.
So Amy, what would you say are the key elements of good customer service?
I think it's, to some extent, having a bit of an internal process for yourself. So for me, I'm always wanting to make sure that I'm properly listening to what I'm being told by the customer, so that I can really understand what the importance of the issue is for them. You know, there may be a bigger picture, but actually these key things are things they really want to look at. Looking at how we can resolve that, whether that's something I can do or whether it's something that I might need to ask a colleague for. And, you know, I'm relatively new in terms of the software that we're using. Sure. So there are times where I have to say, I'm not really sure about that, but I'll find out.
Yeah.
And I think it's managing those expectations and making sure that your customer knows, you know, just because you don't know it doesn't mean you're not going to find that out for them and come back to them with a, you know, proper tangible answer. And letting them know when they can expect that. For me, there's nothing worse than saying, you know, oh, they're coming back to me. When are they coming back to me? I don't know, boss. Sorry, she didn't say.
Yeah.
Not very helpful.
So when I worked in the recruitment industry, one of the key things I was taught actually early on is never blag it. You know, if you don't know the answer, like you were just saying, actually go and find out and don't be afraid to say that to the customer.
Absolutely.
And as I was saying, a lot of these guys will understand that, a lot of the audience, because I'm sure they've all been there in that position, particularly when you're new to a business, new to a sector or industry. I think the client that you're talking to, no matter whether you're a recruiter, whether you're in technology or what industry you're in, I think the client will always appreciate someone that says, I don't know, but I'll go and find out and I'll come back to you.
Yeah.
Because you're not trying to blag it. And quite often a lot of people will know when you're trying to blag it because maybe they know secretly
what it's about.
Give you a little test.
Yeah.
So that's always good. When you perhaps do find the answer out to something that perhaps is not, you know it's not what the customer potentially wants to hear.
Yeah.
Whether that's a contractual question or cost. How do you sort of deliver that, and how do you sort of respond to like a negative reaction to some information that you're just...
Sure. I think, being honest, no one likes to hear what they would deem as bad news. So understanding that actually it's not going to be what they want to necessarily hear, and explaining that, look, I realise that actually this isn't perhaps the news you were hoping for, but let's work on this together and see how we can get this resolved for you. And actually, if it's something that is coming up a lot, then it might be something that we can implement change for, to stop other people having similar issues. It may actually just be, unfortunately, something contractual, as you say, that can't be worked around. But having that empathy and really just being human about the whole process, I think is really important.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's business at the end of the day.
Exactly.
But I think it is really important to have that personal sort of empathetic approach with it. I think just the sort of coming up 9 months that you've been here, there's a few things internally actually that you've identified, which is great, around our processes. And actually, this has come up a couple of times now. Can we do anything to resolve that?
Sure.
Absolutely. And we've changed a few things recently. Nothing major, but they're almost just these sort of tiny tweaks that could be made just to improve that little bit of customer experience, which is great. So it's not, it's not just your responsibility to make sure, like you said earlier, it's every department, but it's stitched into every process, policy and procedure we have internally, and none of that is written in stone.
No.
We've changed a hell of a lot over the last few years internally, and we are always on this sort of journey just to move with the times, because things change. But how can we be better? That's the question we're always asking internally. And ultimately, we've kind of got to a point where we're like, we kind of need to employ someone who can do that better than anyone internally, which is where you came about. So that's really good you said that. So we often talk about internal and external customer service. What's the difference between the two?
So external customer service is what it says on the tin, really. It's your customer service that you're giving to your customers, so those buying products or services from you. So your stereotypical customer service. And that's what everybody thinks of, but actually, internal customer service is different thing again, and equally as important, to be honest. Having good customer service between your departments, those interdepartmental relationships are so important, because at the end of the day, you want to be happy where you're working, and you want to feel like you're, sort of rubbing alongside your colleagues and all working for a common cause. And at the end of the day, that is the business, your customers, and yourself. You want to be happy in your workplace. So making sure really that you're offering good customer service to your colleagues is, I think, quite underrated and very important.
I think that can affect, harping back to your first point, someone's receiving bad customer service, they tend to be more negative, and that can rub off. If someone internally that needs to offer good customer service to the customer is receiving bad internal customer service, then that might make them think, well, why do I bother being bloody nice and happy all the time?
Much harder then for them to deliver, isn't it?
Exactly. And I think we've done blog posts and things like that in the past about interdepartmental communication. Like, that's really important. What sort of experiences have you had in your 9 months of being here? I suppose especially in the early days, when you first joined, those first few weeks where you were finding your feet with the system, with customers, and you're having to sort of not necessarily rely on other departments, but get information from other departments. How have you found that communication within itris? And be honest.
Be honest, he says. Actually, really good. I think I spent a little bit of time sitting in the various departments, and obviously sort of went round and was introduced, so kind of got a feel for what everybody does. That really allowed me to just kind of have a better understanding of their workload. And I think actually that's really important, is to see, how they manage their days. Otherwise, you've got no idea what you're asking, if that's a big ask or something small. I was very fortunate, sitting with support, with training, a bit with the development team, project management. I've sort of sat in all the areas now, and they've been really, really helpful.
And we've got a broad mix of people here as well.
Yeah, very much so.
We're a software house. There's multiple departments. all with various different skills and ultimately personality. Yes, you've got your introverts and your extroverts, and you know, we have a lot of very good staff, but all who are all very different in their own way. And you know, a developer will sit there in the zone, you know, coding, and you know, probably far less likely to need to speak to them. But even if you were, you know, there might be a bit more timid than someone that works on the front line with a customer or in sales. So that's good. And I think one of the benefits, you know, off the back of that, we've been able to do that because obviously the majority of our staff like working in the office. We're a fairly local sort of employer. So, you know, you don't live too far away from the office. It's an easy commute and an easy journey in for a lot of people, and it's a nice working environment, like you said earlier. People like that, and actually that just builds on that, being able to get better internal customer service. In my view, I always prefer to, if I need something, I won't write a message to them on Teams. I'll make the effort to go to our second building, or, you know, go to a different floor to actually go and see someone and talk to them face to face. I feel like you build a lot more rapport.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally agree.
And obviously, you know, from our department being sales and marketing and customer success, we're all on the same floor. So that's easy.
Yeah.
But when you need something from support, again, like you said, you being able to spend that initial time with them to build those relationships. They're like, oh, Amy's nice, you know, rather than Amy's just these words that appear and ask for stuff.
Keeps asking me questions. Go away.
This person that's on the screen in her front room, you know, every day or whatever. So I think it builds that team, doesn't it? And ultimately, it's easier to deliver that internal customer service. So I'm glad everyone's been kind and helpful to you. For that,
no one's been particularly mean.
Good. Don't name them, even if
I won't.
If they were. So we spoke earlier about the elements required for good customer service. What would you say are the key skills required from an individual to be good at customer service?
First and foremost, they've got to be personable. If you're not good with people, you're probably not in the right role.
Yeah.
And with that comes empathy, you know, that real ability to understand where someone's coming from and actually identify with that rather than just, oh yeah, I see what you mean. It's not genuine. So you have to be genuine also. Attention to detail. You know, you may be on a call and someone might say, I've got all these things, but what's really annoying me is, you know, you've got to pick up on the things that actually are going to make the biggest impact for your customer if you get those resolved.
And would you dig there a little bit deeper? So if someone said, oh, I've got a problem with this.
Definitely.
Like, how is that affecting you?
Exactly. Yeah. How's that affecting you? Can you give me an example perhaps of, you know, what is it you're actually trying to do and what would you want the outcome to be? Because it might be that actually I don't know off the bat how to resolve that for them. And then we're going back to internal customer service where we can go to another department with all the information they're actually going to need rather than having to then dig again and spend even longer unpacking that issue.
And I suppose it's about sort of arming yourself, isn't it, with as much detail as possible.
Yeah.
So it's not just, oh, they've got this issue, because someone else internally might say, oh, have they tried this, or how is that happening? How is that affecting them? Or is that just for a user? Is that for the whole business or whatever? So I suppose if you can arm yourself with as much information as possible, that help you to help the customer.
Exactly.
Ultimately.
Yeah.
So that's really good. Obviously, we've mentioned empathy a couple of times. You know, I think we always harp on about that internally, you know, as much as, you know, sometimes you might disagree with what someone's saying or not feel, you know, their pain points too much, but just having that empathy
doesn't mean it's not affecting them.
And that's just life as well. That shouldn't just be at work. That should be with partners, with people you might socialize with or whatever, you know.
Definitely.
If you're trying to talk to someone and they just sit there either listening or try and talk over you or whatever, it's a bit, you know, to actually empathize and get in the zone with them and understand why they feel like that is really important. What would you say is the biggest challenge that businesses face when delivering customer service?
I would say environmental factors, really. So sort of external environment, you know, changes going on in the world, really. And, you know, prices going up, you know, people now, you know, very relevant is that all the prices of all the fuels and overheads are all going up. You know, people are under more stress. So you've got sort of political aspects of things. Unless you've been under a rock, we've just done a pandemic. Everyone's been stressed. People have been off, long term.
That was a tough time for a lot of
things like
businesses, and to try and maintain that customer service level. And, we'll pick a few points you said there, price increases. Most businesses will be putting their prices up, especially if they deliver some sort of service, a software, a subscription. Energy is obviously, just a different kettle of fish and fuel. And a lot of that's been stemmed from wars and, like you said, economic sort of fallout globally. But it's, that ultimately with inflation, that has to pass on. Now, a lot of people will not necessarily see that as good customer service, but sometimes it's a must, particularly if the supplier that's perhaps putting their prices up is actually having pressures outside of their, from their third-party suppliers that are also putting their prices up to perhaps use a system or, heat an office or all this kind of stuff, staff expecting higher pay. Obviously that's very topical at the moment. I suppose all of those things, and again, you might
challenge.
You might be delivering a message that people don't want to hear, but I suppose it's the tone in which that's delivered, or supported. When they're querying why, is being open and honest with them. I think one thing we've come across as well is competition or competitive factors as well. So in order for us to give good customer service, sometimes we have to either follow the competitor's lead in what they're doing, and that's all fine and great, but sometimes that does carry costs, so to keep up, particularly when technology is involved, we want to be offering this feature that this system does, or this service that this customer, that this competitor does. So I think that can have a massive influence. So Amy, you'll be pleased to know, last question.
Okay.
It's a juicy one, so sit.
No.
It's come from one of our sales team, actually, David Spencer, who you know and love. Is the customer always right?
David. David, what are you doing to me?
Yeah.
Okay, so in short, no, sadly, they're not. I think it stems from obviously wanting to please and do all that you can for your customer as often as you can. And it is, unfortunately, a bit of an old-fashioned phrase now, and we've learned as we've gone on through business as a nation and as a world that there are times where, unfortunately, that's not the case. You cannot please all of the people all of the time, but you can make sure that they are looked after. So, no, it's my answer.
I'm sure David, I don't know how
Sorry, David.
to take that, because I think his view is the customer's always right. But then he does get himself in some tricky situations, delivering messages sometimes, which he might rely on you for. I think, what you were saying there as well is spot on, particularly in B2B. B2C, consumers.
It's a bit different.
Yeah, they may have more influence over, a business that's supplying them a service or something like that. I think with business to business, it can be slightly different. I think, the important thing is that the client's heard.
Yes.
And that we sort of let them know that, maybe not say, no, sorry, you're wrong, but actually your opinion matters to us and it's valued as a customer.
Yeah.
And, we're going to do all we can, but ultimately the answer still might be no, right?
Yeah.
If they're asking for something.
Yeah, sadly.
Not
Sometimes it's just not doable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And, cheesy as it is, cheesy as it is, customer is king is true.
Yeah.
Much as I hate the phrase. But that's really where my focus is. Not that they're necessarily always right, but actually they are the most important. We do know that without our customers, then we wouldn't have business.
No, exactly.
So at the end of the day, that's why people like me are in roles like mine.
Yeah, and I think, giving them that sort of internal itris advocate that can be there for them to actually, okay, I've heard that this didn't go as planned. Let me see what we can do about that. Just to try and give them comfort that they've got someone fighting their battle internally rather than just a sort of, a stone wall of, we're not a big corporate company anyway, but, and we do, as we said earlier, customer service is in everything we do, but actually just giving them an internal voice. So, do you know what? You haven't got to talk to every department. I'm going to go and do that.
I'll do that for you. Yeah, absolutely.
That's good customer service.
And
like I said,
maintaining the relationships as well, moving them forward.
I'm sure over your 10 years of experience, you've had to deliver some sort of difficult messages, and
once or twice.
It is a hard thing to put or to phrase, isn't it? Sorry, you're not, that's not right. But look, I suppose as long as you're not just saying, sorry, that's not right.
Yeah.
As long as you're sort of following on from that with, but look, here's what we're going to do to
offering
that better.
There may be an alternative, offering that alternative, or, having that sympathetic ear when actually things aren't going the way that they'd like. That really is, it's the most difficult, but in a weird way, the most rewarding part of the role. A bit sick like that. I kind of quite like helping people when actually they're having a really rubbish day, because sometimes you need someone that you can pick up the phone and have a whinge to. And actually, you may not get it resolved, but you feel better because someone cares.
Just make sure you don't turn into a punch bag, though.
I would turn into a punch bag.
Good stuff.
Don't you worry.
Right, guys, that's it. Episode 6 done. Thank you, Amy, so much.
Welcome.
I know you've not been here long, but
in at the deep end.
In at the deep end, exactly. I hope you found the corner very cosy. But guys, we really appreciate you watching and tuning into these episodes. If you did make it to the end, please do give us a like. Feel free to comment as well for your views on customer experience, and share it with your friends. If you feel like some of your colleagues may need better internal customer service, or you want to do some training or let people know the value of customer service for your business, why not send them this episode? Cheers, guys.